Hello, this is Phil Shekerlian again. You know me from my videos with Nathan Bigley and QX Financial. I just wanted to reach out to all of our YouTube and other social media viewers today about a topic that's really hot right now, and I think everybody needs to know to stay updated. In November of 2020, the voters here in the state of California approved a bill called Proposition 19. As a result, it's going to become law on February 16th, 2021. It will likely affect the majority of the homeowners here in California. And so I wanted to explain the law and give you guys information in case it does affect you. To explain it, I have to start with another proposition. It's called Prop 13. It was passed in California in 1978. It has been a very, very significant law here in California and has made housing affordable to a lot of Californians, especially those that are about to retire or retired. And what it does is it keeps property taxes low so that people can afford to stay in their homes year after year. This is how it works. So Prop 13 says that when you buy real estate, whatever the price you buy the house for, that becomes your base value. The property taxes then are assessed based on the base value, and that's usually around 1%. Every year, because real estate appreciates over time, and here in Southern California especially, California in general, but more so in Southern California, real estate appreciates by about 5% or so a year. If there were no Prop 13, then your property taxes would continue to go up by 5% a year. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you take into account compounding, that adds up really fast. I think probably an example might help explain this. So let's say, for instance, you bought a home in 1990 and the median home price in 1990 was $250,000. So let's say you bought a home for $250,000. And then year after year, it increased by the average of 5% a year. That means that your home in 2020 would be worth $1.1 million. So, you know, in just that 30 or so years, that's a significant increase. Without Prop 13, in 1990, you would start off paying $2,500 a year in property taxes. And without Prop 13 in 2020, you would be paying $11,000 for the year of 2020. With Prop 13, though, that $2,500 a year that you would have paid in 1990 now becomes a little over $4,500 in the year 2020. So the difference between the $11,000 and the $4,500 is about $6,500 a year. That's a huge savings right there. And that's what allows a lot of residents in California to keep their property tax basis and keep their property. Now, that's all simple and sounds real easy, but if you take into the account the fact that things happen, people die and want to transfer the real estate to their children. People also decide during life that maybe they're, in Southern California, it's difficult to survive. And a lot of parents that are well off would like to provide for their children and at least provide a home for them to live in so that they don't have to worry about where they're going to live day after day and how they're going to make rent next month. If that's the case, then the way that Prop 13 works is that any transfer of the asset, whether it's by sale, by gift, or any other way that property is transferred out of the original buyer's name, that Prop 13 initial basis gets lost and the property goes up to the full assessed value. However, they luckily built in some exceptions to Prop 19. Prop 13. And one of those exceptions is that if you do transfer, gift, sell the property, and it's to a parent, child, grandchild, or anywhere along the linear lines, then there's no reassessment, and that child or grandchild or parent or whoever can retain the same property tax basis. That means that if I bought that home in 1990 and I decided to transfer it to my kids today, my kids would continue to pay the $4,500 in property taxes, not the $11,000 in property taxes. So that's a great thing. Well, Prop 19 modifies that. With Prop 13, this exception to transfer to your kids, you could transfer your personal residence no matter what the value was, and up to $1 million worth of assessed property. So when they say $1 million of assessed property, what they're saying is that you can transfer, if your real estate was, let's go back to the example that we used. So let's say the real estate is worth 1.1 million this year, but the assessed value because of Prop 13 is actually only about $453,000. So then that would count, that 453 would count towards the million transferred, not the 1.1 million. So I could transfer many properties to my children under this $1 million exemption. Well, with Prop 19, that $1 million is still there, but it works in a different way. So what they say is, before Prop 19, there were no restrictions on transferring to your children. It could be your primary residence, a vacation home, or a rental home. With Prop 19, it says it can only be your primary home. If it's a vacation home, an investment home, you can't transfer it and keep the basis. Your kids are going to end up having to pay the full $11,000 in property taxes every year. In addition, it would have to become your child or grandchild or whoever you're transferring that property to. It would have to become their primary home as well. If they used it as a vacation home or a investment income home, then they're going to have to pay that full $11,000 in property taxes as well. And then the $1 million comes into play again, and it says that if it is your primary home and your kids are going to make it their primary home, then the difference in the assessed value, which is that basis value, and the actual value, so the fair market value that you could sell it for, cannot be more than $1 million difference. So in the situation that we had talked about, the assessed value was 453,000. The home was worth 1.1 million. That's less than $1 million difference. It would be okay. But let's say the home was worth $2 million and it was assessed at 453,000. That would mean that the house would be bumped up to $1 million assessed value, and the property taxes would more than double, but they wouldn't quadruple all the way up to the $2 million value. So let's put some math on, or some numbers on that to make a little more sense. So let's say that in 1990, instead of purchasing one house at median house price of $250, you bought two houses. One was a investment property that you had rental income from, and the other was your primary home. So then fast forward to 2020, and without Prop 19, if you were to die or pass that property to your children in this year, your children would pay about $9,000 in property taxes on those two properties. If there was no Prop 13, your children would be paying $22,000 on those properties. So now let's say that's a huge difference. You know, $11,000 a year is quite a bit. And once again, with compounding, that increases substantially every year. So now let's say that Prop 19 was actually passed in the year of 2020. It's not, but let's say, for example, so we don't have to change the numbers, that it was. That would mean that the investment property, your children would have no choice but to pay that full $11,000 a year, or for the year of 2020. And for the primary home that you live in, if your children live in it, then they could retain that lower $4,500 basis. But if they don't live in it, then they would have to pay the $11,000 for the year 2020. So what that comes out to be is there's three options. No Prop 19, your kids would pay $9,000 a year in property taxes. Yes, Prop 19, but your kid moves into your primary residence, your kid would pay $15,000 and change in 2020 in property taxes. And if your kid didn't move into your primary residence, then they'd be paying $22,000 in 2020 for property taxes. That's a difference of $13,000 a year, and that's going to continue to compound. So it's really important to avoid the negative effects of Prop 19. Unfortunately, there's only one way to do that, and that is to make the transfer before the law goes into effect on February 16th. Now, there's three different ways essentially to make that transfer before the law takes effect. The first one is you could die before February 16th. And then your family would reap the benefits of not having Prop 19 affect them. The second way is you could simply record a new deed, transferring the property from yourself to your children, and record that before February 11th. The reason being is that the recorder's office is going to be closed from February 12th through the 15th. So February the 11th would be the last day to record those deeds, and then you avoid the effects of Prop 19. The problem with doing that is there's something called a step up in basis with capital gains taxes. And I believe I briefly touched on that in one of our previous videos. And I will go into more detail in a future video, but just to refresh your memory, when somebody passes away and they have property that is in their estate in the eyes of the IRS, that property, all the capital gains tax that would have been owed if it was sold the day before you died, all of that gets erased on the day of your death, and your kids inherit that property completely capital gains tax free. If you do that deed to transfer it out of your name into your kid's name, great, they've avoided the property tax increase, but now they may have a substantial capital gains tax that they have to pay if they want to sell that in the future. So the only way to get the best of both worlds and to get that step up in basis and avoid Prop 19 property tax reassessment is to transfer that real estate into an irrevocable trust before February 11th and get the deed recorded as well. We're doing, I've done 5 of them already this week, and we're only in Thursday. So we're doing several of these a week right now, and we can take on several more, but if you need help with this, you got to get in quick. We're free to answer any questions that you have, but if you have rental property or vacation home especially, Prop 19 is going to affect you. If you don't and you just have the home you live in, then it may affect you. And if you're not sure, contact us. I hope you guys learned something valuable today. As always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to myself or to QX Financial. You can find our contact information below. And please like, subscribe, and share this video, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.
The commentary provided in this video is for informational and educational purposes only. No advice, offer, or solicitation of any kind, expressed or implied, is being given. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of QX Financial, any subsidiaries, or associates thereof. When considering making any changes to your situation, you should consult a competent licensed professional. All rights reserved. Copyright September 17th, 2020.
This information is not intended and should not be taken as legal advice for any particular set of facts or circumstances. You should contact an attorney directly for advice with specific legal problems. None of this information creates an attorney-client relationship with the law offices of Phil Shekerlian.